All right, everyone. Happy April Fool's Day. Wednesday, April 1st, 2026, 3:11 p.m. New York City time. Hope everybody's doing well. And make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. And we'll just jump right in. I did make a video this morning, pretty quiet today in terms of at least how I trade. So, not a heck of a lot to report. In terms of open positions, I'm still holding on to these three positions. Aussie Swiss, I opened last night. And I'm still holding on to CAD yen and Euro CAD. I did end up closing Swiss yen and Aussie yen. Aussie yen was in a loss. Swiss yen was in a profit. They probably washed each other out. But I still have these three running. And I think I had Euro Aussie running this time yesterday. I did close that one in a small profit. Um, I wasn't really too thrilled with what the Aussie was doing. Um, Even though, but the Aussie Swiss, I'm holding on to this for now. But I may end up cutting this one too. It looks like potentially, we had a bounce on the Aussie up, but that may not be sustained. So we'll take a quick look here. Swiss yen, again, I closed it. The short on that right here, we had this split right here, which is why I had gone short on that, and then I closed it right around here earlier today, somewhere inside this blue candle. Now, ultimately, I do think. This is still a pretty good signal here. So we'll see if this continues. But you can see price has gotten hung up at this kind of support level right here. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this, even though I don't necessarily take entries off shorter time frames. So we start to get some real bearish price action, like on a 1 to 4 hour chart. I may re-enter this, but I basically, my profit level is set right around this support level here, which is held a few times. And so I ended up taking it off. Aussie Swiss, like I said, I'm in a long position because of this setup right here. It's not totally ideal because both of these lines have kind of gone flat line now. And you can see, we had this daily candle yesterday, which is where I got into this during I think the early Asian session last night, which actually would have been this candle that's forming now. And you can see it kind of hit some previous support now acting as resistance right here. And I guess it just kind of depends where you feel your market structure actually sits. Did it sit here at this pullback that led up to this high and this really weak movement up, which means this probably will go down? Or is the market structure, somewhere, back in here somewhere? And so my stop loss is just below this candle from yesterday. I'm not going to let it get that far. If the shorter time frames look like they're definitely going to continue lower here, like I see, here's that resistance area we touch. We start to head lower here. I probably will cut this tonight during the Asian session, but let's see what happens with it. Um, and I also, like I said, I closed Aussie yen in a loss. Um, I think it was a wash between my Aussie yen and the Swiss yen. But Aussie yen again, I still feel like this will go down more. It's just that the Aussie was starting to strengthen. You can see when they first started diverging, this was a nice area. But then we've got this with the Aussie kind of now starting to head up, and now it's flattened out a little bit. So we start to get this bending down again. I would consider re-entering it, but when they're both moving in the same direction like this, that usually indicates that you're going to start seeing at least a pullback, if not some flatlining of the price action. And so I just decided to cut it. I just tend to not let these trades go very long. If they're not like kind of moving into profit within a day or so, I'm just going to cut it, uh, in loss or around break even, but a much smaller one. I very, very rarely let these things run to stop loss. Um, it's just not worth it. I'll just cut it and I'll wait for the next opportunity. So if it was in drawdown, but this orange line was still pointing down, I'd be holding on to it. But with them both kind of trending up right now, it just felt like it was something I didn't want to hold on to. But, this still looks like fairly bearish here. And so if we get this little, if we go to a shorter time frame and we start to see this thing impulsively start to move back down, I might consider getting back into it. But I'd want to see this I'd want to see this Aussie line, the orange line here, start to angle back down, and then that would give me a lot more confidence. All right. There's not really much else, to be honest. That's why I didn't really take anything else today. Just looking through these really quick in terms of new signals. I mean, there's some older signals that are still here, but I'm not really seeing anything really crazy going on. I mean, I'll keep an eye on something like Pound Aussie. These two have come together, and we'll see, do they cross, divergently cross, or do we bounce off and get, which would mean a rally in the Pound Aussie in this case, or are they going to cross and head down and have the pair cross and start heading down? So that one's on my watch list. Um, but there's not really much else. So I don't want to sit here and belabor this. That's why, like I said, I didn't make a video this morning. Euro yen is, inside of a tight range, but the last buy signal is here. But you can see they're both heading up now. And this is a perfect example where you get across, but you can see both lines are heading up. So they're both strengthening. Even though you got a crossover, and we had a momentary dip right here. They're both heading up. And you can see, so you have two relatively strong currencies relative to each other. And so that's causing this sideways price action, right? So to me, this is not a trade. I didn't take this even back on this crossover. And certainly, obviously, there's nothing there now. But this pattern here keeps me out of taking any trade here at all. Okay. And then dollar yen is another one to potentially put on the watch list. So, pound Aussie, dollar yen as potential watches. And that's about it, to be honest with you. So we'll continue to watch the existing positions. Aussie Swiss, like I said, I may end up cutting that one loose. I'll let it run at least through the New York close today. And then I'll reevaluate it during the Asian session tonight and see what it does. But probably just going to I'm probably about 50-50 on that one right now. Okay, over to currency futures really quick. So these I will consider day trading these on a shorter time frame, and you can see on the euro. So this would be the euro currency futures and the euro dollar futures. Again, that's these first three. They all look exactly the same. So I don't need to analyze all three. They're all the same. You can see they've come together here, but there's no crossover. And they haven't diverged away from each other. Probably won't be a trade here today. But this is an interesting setup. So I'll keep this one on a watch list as well. So that's 6E, and then we had pound Aussie and dollar yen. Okay. And then looking at the Aussie, so the Aussie again has come together and remember on all of these currency futures, the blue line is the DXY, the dollar index. That's the same for all of them. So you can see the Aussie has also come together. So we'll see what happens here if we get any sort of divergence away for a trade. Again, it's kind of late in the session today, so I don't see myself taking anything now. Kind of the same thing with the Kiwi, although we've kind of had a little crossover here to the downside. So let's see if we get any continuation. That one might be something to think about tonight during the Asian session if we get some real divergence pulling away from each other. Not much doing with the British pound. I mean, they're kind of flatline, but I like to see them closer together, especially on a short time frame like this. Same story with the Swiss franc. You can see it's pretty much the same story with all of them. They're all just kind of coming up against the dollar, evening out. So, that's kind of a situation where, all right, let's see what happens here. Do we get continuation of these trends? Or are we going to get some kind of crossover reversal? I don't know. So, but they're all interesting. Again, I'll see what happens during the overnight, whether there's anything going on. I generally don't like to trade during the Asian session on futures, especially. I might take a forex trade during that time, but I'm pretty reticent against taking any futures trades during the overnight session. But we'll see what happens. And then just quickly turning to grains. Not really much happening. We're pretty much range bound on all three. Here's wheat. This is the daily chart, and you can see yesterday we had this. We go to like a 12-hour, maybe even a 4-hour. We had this classic fake out breakout right here yesterday. We had this pretty tight range. We moved out of it. We had three candles kind of rounded out, fell right back into the range. So traps all the all the breakout buyers right here, and we have this fall right into the range. We had the same thing happen on the other side of the range here. We had a breakout low, trapped all the sellers, breaking out, went back into the range. So in reality now, I'd like to like kind of do this with this range. I know it's a really wide range, but now that we've kind of established new parameters of the range, but we're still technically inside of it now, then I'm not interested in trading this until this comes out of this consolidation period and actually starts to trend again. And so we'll see. Corn is pretty much the same way. We're operating inside a very obvious range here, pretty much since mid-March. But certainly since, yeah, about mid-March, we started the bottom end of this range. Bottom, top, back to the bottom. Kind of tried to make a run back to the top, which is why I don't like trading ranges because, sometimes it doesn't get there. And then if you take a trade against it at the edges, it just that's I just don't bother with trading these ranges. So either way, I'll be waiting for this to kind of break out of here and either up or down and continue a decent trade, but be very, very wary of those fake outs and those false breakouts that trap the traders. On a breakout trade, I like to see like a 4 hour chart with at least a couple of solid, if let's say it was going to go down, a couple of solid bear candles to close below this level, like, a couple of them, with closing near the lows, not just little wicks, not small dojis with big wicks or whatever. A couple of bearish candles to clear this range. I'd love to see it actually get below even these lows back here. And then, whether it retraces or not is another story. Whether it comes back for a retest and then down, who knows? Sometimes it doesn't. It'll just go. But anything where that just closes just below this range, I'm not interested in because there's a very high chance it'll be a fake out and it'll come right back into the range. Okay, so that's what I'm waiting for. And same thing if it goes up. And it's the exact same story on soybeans here. You can see a very well-defined range. If we want to ignore this back here, we can tighten this up a little bit more. Okay. And here's our very well-defined range we're trading within. So again, for me, no interest in trading this until it breaks out of the range. And again, I'd like to see a couple of 4 hour candles close well beyond the range to prevent any fake out. And I like to use higher time frames for those, like 4 hour candles, not 1 hour, not 15 minutes, because you can get like on a 15-minute chart, you can get a couple of let's say you get a fake out to the upside. You can go to a 1 hour or 15-minute and you'll get a couple of like really strong looking bullish candles. And you're like, oh, great, this thing's breaking out to the upside. But all you're doing is just zooming in and taking a very small time frame picture of that breakout. And that's what they're hoping for, the large institutions that are searching for liquidity. They want to push that into those areas because they know that people are scalping and day trading and trading off 5-minute time frames. And you get sucked in by those big, bullish candles on those short time frames, only to have it be a trap and, ends up heading back the other way and traps you in a losing trade as price falls back into the range again. So I like to use higher time frames like 4 hour, middle of the road time frame, like a 4 hour candle. And I want to see at least a couple of them close well beyond the range, close at the highs with not, in the case of an uptrend, with not with a bunch of big wicks sitting on top, little doji, small body candles with big wicks. Those are telltale signs of a fake out, like what we saw on wheat, like this kind of crap when I had my range like this, right? You got these two candles. These are 4 hour. You got three candles here with big wicks. This one here, a doji. This one, a small body, right, with these big wicks. Classic entrapment candles. But on a short time frame, if we look at this area right here on a short time frame, okay, we go down to like a 1 hour. This still doesn't look very bullish, honestly. But sometimes it does look really bullish. Like right here, you get strong bull candle, you get a pull back into the range, starts to move out again right here. Bull candle, you're like, okay, this was the retest. Now we're going up. and then it just runs out of steam and falls right back again. The 4-hour chart is much cleaner. It'll show you that those are not really valid candles to trade off of. I'll wait for a couple of, strong, either bullish or bearish candles close beyond the range. And then whether we get a break and retest or not, I'm not sure. So, all right. So we'll see what happens with those. Anyways, guys, that's it. I'm going to leave it there. Questions, comments, leave them down below. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of your night.